Paradise can look quite different for different folks. Commissioned review. This, oh boy, this is an interesting one. The Phantom of the Paradise. So, this is a mid 70s rock musical horror question mark sci-fi question mark somewhat campy story that mashes together the Phantom of the Opera, Faust, uh, a picture of Dorian Gray, and a little dash of the Little Mermaid throw in there for good measure. It it pulls a lot of influences and it mixes them up together in this. Well, let me put it this way. This is a film not infrequently compared to Rocky Horror Picture Show, which actually came out the year after this. And having now seen it, I get why. They have a similar overall tone and feel to them. They are distinct. I wouldn't call Rocky Horror a ripoff of this, but they feel very much born from similar instincts and similar desires for what to bring to the screen. They feel like siblings in a way. One is not derivative of the other, but like they come from a similar place. So if you like Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I love it, and you haven't seen The Phantom of the Paradise, I'd say it's at least worth giving a shot. So, plot. Oh boy. Okay. So, our most prominent character might actually be the villain. Now, that is the character of Swan, who's a music producer, played by Paul Williams, and played legitimately excellently. Because, like, this is a campy film. Most of the performances are a bit over the top, but Paul Williams is surprisingly understated, and he is shockingly menacing. If you're not familiar with Paul Williams, he's probably as well known, if not better known, as a singer than he is as an actor. He's this very small, unassuming dude. He's legit menacing in this. He's like, it's a legitimately good performance. But Swan is someone who is very much into cutting deals with musicians that gets him everything he wants and leaves them with nothing. That's sort of where your Faust influence comes in. Also, Faust is referenced directly because that is the work that the titular Phantom of the Paradise has been working on. Now, there's like a whole backstory where we actually cover. So, normal in your standard Phantom of the Opera style story, you don't find out the backstory of the Phantom until later. Here, we actually start with that. We see how this happened to him and how he was screwed over by Swan and is continuing to be screwed over by Swan. But much like Phantom of the Opera, we also have, the young woman rising star, played by the same actress who replaced Susan Sarandon as Janet in Shock Treatment, the pseudo sequel to Rocky Horror. So there's another connection for you. And she's got a great voice too. And so, like, there's her, and obviously the Phantom wants her to be the one to sing his words, whereas Swan is, Swan just lies about everything, and he's just chewing people out, chewing people up and spitting them out, not chewing them out. But it's got all those things, but there is also this thing of like stealing voices, which is sort of the Little Mermaid influence a little bit. And I mentioned the camp. A lot of the camp is owing to a couple of key characters and also the directorial flair. I'll come back to that because I haven't mentioned who directed this yet. So there's a character named Beef. At least that's his stage name. This very flamboyant, over the top, borderline kind of hard rock kind of performer, and who is he's kind of campy gay when not singing. When singing, like, this is kind of, pop star energy, but then starts talking and complaining. Oh, I can't sing this. You need a castrata for this. It's way up out of my range. And the thing is, on paper, I feel like I should be offended by this portrayal. But I kind of love Beef. There's just something about how he is both out of place in this, yet also seems to be the most self-aware and has the best understanding of where he is and what he's doing. And I don't mean like the actor was the only one who knew what kind of movie he was in. All the actors know what kind of movie they're in. But I mean like the character seems to know what kind of movie he's in. Which is why he spends a chunk of it trying to get out of it. It's like, no, look, the Phantom's real. I shouldn't be here. But he's a lot of fun. Now, the director, this is a Brian De Palma movie. And oh boy, is it a Brian De Palma movie. It has a lot of his directorial flair, some very show-off kind of shots, full 360-degree pans, some split screen work. If you are familiar with Brian De Palma's work as a director, you will spot his fingerprints on this very, very quickly, but it's a real good fit. His he is a good fit for this for the same way he was a good fit for Carrie. It's kind of a weird, somewhat off-putting story, so shooting it in a weird, somewhat off-putting way, as De Palma has a tendency to do to varying degrees, that's just a good fit. And he brings a lot of visual energy with the way that this is shot. In a way that, honestly, I would say kind of in that specific aspect, I don't want to overplay the idea of comparing this to Rocky Horror Picture Show. It is a better shot movie than Rocky Horror Picture Show. Rocky Horror Picture Show is not particularly high art in terms of its directorial and cinematography choices. It works. It's perfunctory. It gets the job done. What is fun about that is the story, the characters, of the songs. You wouldn't call it a visually arresting film. This, while, campy, the effects and the costumes are a little bit like, really? But like it's shot with a visual flair that you get from a much more daring and assured director than Rocky Horror Picture Show had. And that's exactly what Brian De Palma brings to this, which elevates it from where it might have been otherwise. Because to a certain degree, I can kind of see why, in a lot of ways, Rocky Horror overshadowed this. Because Rocky Horror, like the songs especially, like it has its darker aspects, but they're like little moments, but it's just kind of a stand-up and like, yeah, this is just frankly a darker story. And it has its fun aspects like Beef, but like a lot of the core of the story is kind of dark and it's not as fun. It's not going to get you as just like pumped up and like, yeah, the way Rocky Horror is. So I kind of see why its legacy is not as strong. But again, that's something that Brian De Palma is really, really good at. And it just is able to present something really fascinating. Like if you like offbeat musicals, whether it's the Rocky Horror Picture Show, whether it's Little Shop of Horrors, just like slightly offbeat, a little bit weird, like you wouldn't pitch it to just anybody, but if you can find the right person, they're going to love it. Rebo Genetic Opera, another example of that. I'm not comparing it completely in terms of tone and song style to any of those other three, but those kinds of weird, slightly offbeat musicals, if those are your jam and you have not already checked out The Phantom of the Paradise, I'm going to recommend it actually pretty strongly. It is energetic and weird and interesting, like visually interesting. The story's fairly predictable. If you know the sources it's pulling from, then you're going to figure out most of what it's doing early on. Although some of the directions it goes towards the end, particularly with when we get a little bit more background on Swan, I did not necessarily see coming. But it all still fits and flows. But it's just well put together. And I would say my own favorite song is the closing credits song. It's a song called The Hell of It, and Paul Williams sings it over the credits. I think that is my favorite song. I don't think its individual songs are quite as standout and as like, ooh, I want to hear that again for fun as something like Rocky Horror. That might have been the other thing. But they're still good songs, and they definitely fit the feel and the atmosphere and the energy of this thing. This is a good time. This is a good, weird time. The Phantom of the Paradise, oddly enough, also made by Fox, who also made Rocky Horror. I don't know what the executives were on at Fox in the mid-70s, but bless them. Have you seen this? What did you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Patreon is how I was commissioned to review this one. So you can do that there. But even if you don't want to go that far, you get rewards at every tier. Even if you aren't up for that, there's links to other things I do down in the description. But don't worry too much about it. We take a relaxed attitude around here, so you can just come on back next time you need a break. End of the video, so I gotta shout out my top patrons. Robin Moore, Zubin Lutfulla, Tarak, the thing that goes doink in the anime, Oliver B., Angus Bjarnason, Melinda Walters, Imudelki, The Oath of Boyd, Katoria, Toy Lowly, Becky Sparks, Fernambulax the Poodle, Zach, Tracy Scrabbit, Angry Casperl, Tim Price, Adam R.D.L. Taylor, Shayla Gourlay, and Brendan LaRose. Thanks for your support. If you want to hear me probably mispronounce your name as well, check out the rewards on the Patreon. How you doing there?